Hello and welcome to the Visionary Leaders Collective podcast. My name is Aisha Harley and I am one of the founders, and we are so thrilled to have you join us today. We meet every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And if you miss us live, you can always listen to the recording on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. For a full list of our community offerings, please visit www.hellovisionary.life. Your 5-star review means the world to us and helps more people discover all that we have to share. Oh, let me let somebody in there. Today, we are excited to have Ariana Harley join us with our esteemed healthcare practitioners, Louise Rose, naturopathic doctor, Mica Carew, naturopathic doctor and licensed acupuncturist, and Wan, licensed acupuncturist. Together, they will guide us through an insightful exploration of Fennel, which is the oil of responsibility, covering its physical, emotional, and energetic applications. Ariana, I'm going to pass the call on over to you.
Thanks, Aisha. Hello, everyone. I love that we have people from around the world. Super excited to talk to you about Fennel today. So let me pull up our presentation. And if you have a bottle of Fennel, I said this earlier, but go ahead and grab it. You can smell it, you can taste it, you can rub it on your belly. Those are the things that I like to do with Fennel. And do you like the smell of Fennel? Let me know. Type it in the chat. It's very like licorice, and I know that that is a flavor and a smell that people tend to seem to love it or hate it. It's like one of those strong, like yes or no smells and flavors. Let me just get this presentation up on a bigger screen for y'all. And so Fennel, the oil of responsibility. When I heard that name, that's from our emotions book that if you don't have, it's available on Aroma Tools as one of the sites. And it's a really great book. It goes into the emotional qualities of all the oils. And I was thinking Fennel, responsibility, that sounds like a lot of work. But I love that each of the plants helps us to come in and be a more centered whole person. So how have we used Fennel? Historically, Fennel is native to the Mediterranean. It's been used for antiquity. Roman warriors were said to have used Fennel to strengthen their readiness for battle. And several Eastern and Middle Eastern cultures have long used it in their cuisine. The plant's a perennial herb that can grow to nearly 8 feet high. It has small yellow flowers, a delicate, feathery, fragrant leaves, but the essential oil is potent and distinct. And it's good to know that the essential oil comes from the fennel seeds. So you might have had like fennel root in a salad, but the energy and the properties from the essential oils is coming from the seeds. So we'll talk about that energy as well today. And I am going to pass the mic to Dr. Louise, and she's going to talk to us. We divide our calls, if you're new to our calls, we divide our presentations into 3 categories. Actually 4, because we do traditional Chinese medicine too. But we do body, mind, and spirit. And so with body, we talk more about the physical uses. With the mind, we talk about the emotional uses. And spirit, we talk about the energetic uses. And we always identify that there really is no separation because they all intermingle. So Louise, will you tell us about the physical properties of Fennel?
I would love to. Good morning, everybody. It's always so fun to just bring my focus to one oil and just dive in deep with these colleagues. I love this call for that reason. So like Ariana said, these categories are somewhat arbitrary. And the way I think about oils and study oils is kind of through a bunch of different lenses. So I love looking at the chemistry behind the oils. I love the fragrance energetics, like how does it move the energy in your body when you smell it? I have, years and years, let's see how many years now, 13 years of clinical experience using these oils in my practice. So I have some experience with that as well. And just off the top of my head, before diving into doing this research, I am really familiar with using fennel for the digestive system. So put in the chat, like, is that the first thing that you think of when you think of fennel? Is like, oh, my upset tummy, I'm going to grab my fennel. It has such a long history of use for indigestion and specifically like flatulence and gas pain. One of the ways that fennel works in the body is it relaxes the smooth muscle tissue. So we have smooth muscle in our intestinal tract. We have smooth muscle in the uterus. We have smooth muscle in our bronchioles, our lungs. And these are all areas that fennel really shines to relax those smooth muscles, easing that spasmodic tension that can come from different things. One of my resources that I reach for to learn about oils is Peter Holmes, and he's a Chinese medicine practitioner. And one of the things that I found really interesting is that he categorizes fennel as both a relaxant and a stimulant. So what a beautiful, way that plants can hold those two things in one plant. So our bodies actually know what to do with the oil, whether we need the more relaxing part or the more circulating and stimulating part. So let's see. So besides digestion, what would we use fennel for? It has a lot of effect on the reproductive system, especially for women. It can be estrogenic, supporting a low estrogen state. It has a lot of great use in the genitourinary system, the urinary tract. Again, if there's any sort of spasmodic bladder spasm, anything like that, it's a relaxant and can help with that spasmy pain. And then the respiratory system. So let me just kind of go through with a little bit more focus. So fennel can be a strong uterine stimulant, and because of that, it's cautioned to be careful with it in pregnancy, which makes sense. And then also with breastfeeding, which is something I wanted to bring up and ask the other doctors on the call, because fennel has this long history in herbal medicine as something that actually promotes breastfeeding and good, healthy milk supply. And yet, in my research, I found that it was contraindicated during breastfeeding. So I thought that was interesting. It's also, we need to be really careful with conditions that are overly estrogenic. There are certain kinds of cancers and things. However, that said, we know in this community that phytoestrogens sometimes can be useful when we have too much estrogen in our body, because they're a milder form of estrogen. So they kind of push out the negative big estrogens that we don't want. So it can be supportive, but use caution if you have high estrogen. It is considered a mild oil, non-toxic, non-irritating, non-sensitizing. It can be useful in any sort of water retention situations. So it helps drain the kidneys and the urinary tract. So it helps the body release excess water. It can be useful for any sort of chronic urinary infection or bladder issues. Again, it really shines in our digestive arena. It can help with gas and bloating. It can help stimulate appetite. I would, if you have someone in your household that does have low appetite and really needs help to really want to reach for those nourishing foods, diffusing it with wild orange and cardamom would be a nice gentle way to support positive appetite. It can be helpful for constipation, diarrhea. We see it's protecting the liver. It helps with blood sugar balancing. So basically any sort of chronic digestive weakness, it can just tonify the whole system. It is a wonderful, as most of our oils are, it is wonderfully antimicrobial. It is really a broad spectrum antifungal and can be used to help bring balance to different skin conditions that might be out of balance, and has been used for historically to help with parasites. Fennel and basil together are really great anti-spasmodic. Basil's really soothing and calming, so you can pair those together, especially for that digestive gas pain. Using fennel with marjoram and Roman chamomile would be a wonderful combination. Again, fennel with spearmint and cardamom, pop that into a little gel cap and it'll just calm down your tummy. Or if you are familiar with castor oil packs, that would be a great combo to do with a castor oil pack. Another good gel cap combination for like irritable bowel syndromes, type of that sort of spasmodic constipation, diarrhea, peppermint, fennel, and lavender combined in a gel cap. And then fennel and geranium together for any sort of uterine restorative action, decongesting. You could have a breast rub to decongest like swelling, any sort of cystic breasts or mastitis in the breasts. Again, another great combination for a castor oil pack would be juniper, rosemary, fennel, and yarrow. Really great hormonal balancing, resolving that sort of pelvic stagnation that can happen. Or if you tend towards that water retention, you could pair it with juniper, geranium, and grapefruit. And let's see, I just wanted to share a few of my notes from my meditation, even though they're not, specifically clinical, but in my meditation, I really got this sense of like fennel is soothing and smoothing. Soothing, I move painful bubbles of anger, hurt, and discomfort. I'm smoothing, moving, and relieving, sweet and nourishing. So there's lots of great daily ways that we can bring fennel into our practice through diffusing, topical use, and then it makes a wonderful tea just to add hot water. There's a tonic that I recommend. I go through phases of using myself. I got it off the internet sometime. I don't know, maybe Ariana remembers where we got this from, but it was called an empath tonic. So if you tend to take on the emotions or energies of those people around you and you need more support to clarify who you are, try fennel and lime together in your water. I like to add a few drops of chlorophyll for the green pop. And then if you are lucky enough to have a bottle of that Japanese peppermint that we came out with, that would be another great addition for that empath tonic. All right, those are my notes, and I really look forward to hearing what other people have to say. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks, Dr. Louise. So it was fennel. I don't remember. I remember talking about the empath tonic, and I don't remember where we got it, but can you say it one more time? It was fennel, lime,
Fennel and lime, that's
chlorophyll
the
in there.
basics. Yeah, and then I add the chlorophyll and peppermint if you
And the
if you have
Japanese
it.
peppermint.
Mhm, if
Oh,
you
I
want
love it.
to.
I love it. And I did put on the slide, so I'd like to clarify, for breastfeeding and fennel, I have always learned with herbalists, and I know essential oils are different. When I was doing research, I read that fennel can help with breast milk production, but does anybody know any more about that? I just wanted to clarify that question because you also read it was contraindicated. So I just want to honor the safety of that. So if you are listening to us, I'm sorry for the lack of clarification, but we just want to be really mindful if we're pregnant or if we're working with small babies. So that one we might want to do a little more research in. If it was me personally, I would take a drop of fennel and make a tea, just not a ton of fennel. I wouldn't use a ton of fennel if I needed more breast milk production, but that's me personally. So I just wanted
Yeah, Ariana, I would what I suggest to patients is to don't have that as the emperor herb or the emperor oil or the most amount. So if you're making a blend, then it would be like you said one drop, like one drop of that, and it might be like the chamomile lavender tea and one drop of fennel in there for breast milk, or hops and then a drop of fennel. Something
I love
like
that. And I feel like fennel's energy too is not the emperor herb. It's so
Yeah.
strong. You don't need a lot of fennel. Like, it's like fennel, one or two drops, you're good. It's so strong. So thank you for
So
Oh, Mica.
Rebecca, oh, hi, Dr. Josie.
Hi, I
Rebecca
just
had
wanted
a
to-
question. What was the combo for breast health cysts?
Fennel and geranium.
I wanted to piggyback on what you just said, Dr. Mica. This is Dr. Josie. And just for everyone, keeping in mind when they're reading different resources that a lot of the times with herbal medicine and definitely with essential oils, that when there's a contraindication, sometimes that means that herb, I mean, most of the times what that means is it has an effect, right? So it's like, well, you're in the territory that fennel can have an estrogenic effect. So it then really becomes down to subtlety and informed, right, decision making about how you're going to use it correctly. So that's all. It's like, yeah, and a lot of times contraindications come about because they just don't want, the lay public might not have that subtlety, so let's just tell them not to use it. That's how many contraindications in herbalism, not always, become about. So you can do further research and find out, well, actually, if I am trying to increase my estrogen and it is low, or my milk production, a very judicious amount of this could be medicinal. So that's just one way to start perceiving and looking at contraindications. They're not always a black and white.
Nice, Dr. Josie. Yes, because what they're trying to avoid is someone saying, oh, I need to produce more breast milk. I'm going to pour this entire bottle into my water and drink it, right? So less is not more. More is not
Yeah.
better.
And if someone could
More's
pour
not
an
more.
entire bottle of fennel in their water and drink it, I would be highly impressed, because I think that the essential oils also are like, hey, we're strong. Like you don't need a ton of me. So yeah, thank you for the clarification. I just thought that might feel a little confusing for people. So I wanted to clarify. And I also want to give credit. Dr. Louise did give credit, but when we were talking about, I labeled, if you are seeing the visuals here, Fennel's pals, the fennel and the basil, the fennel, marjoram, Roman chamomile, fennel, Siberian fir, fennel spearmint and cardamom, and fennel and juniper berry. Those are combinations from Peter Holmes' book, and that is where I got that information. So I wanted to give him credit for that. So moving on to the emotional uses, how are we going to use fennel? So I love getting to know plants, just like if you've heard me speak before, I think of them as my friends, and I think of them just like I get to know different people. And sometimes there's some of us that are black and white thinkers, and we just think very like it's this or it's that. And then we know in life there's a lot of gray areas. If you've ever met, if you have friends, that we're complex people. There's many sides to us. And how you get to know a person, if you're a mother and you know your child, that's going to be a different relationship than a best friend, than a partner lover, than a grandmother, right? There's all these different roles that we play. And I feel that the plants are the same. And fennel, I have to say, I pigeonholed a bit, and I just stuck it in a category of, oh, you're the stomach digestive supporter. And that's what Louise had said earlier. And and Mica said this too, I love deep diving because it always asks me to get more curious about these plants, to look at how complex their personalities are, and how actually they offer so much more than meets the eye. So one thing in my research that I hadn't been using fennel for was bronchial and chest support, lung support. So I really like to put that in my mind, like, oh yeah, fennel's good for that. When we think of fennel emotionally, fennel, if you are a gardener, if you've ever grown fennel, once you have fennel, you don't get rid of fennel. I planted some fennel in my garden, and I will always have fennel, and its roots go deep. It can grow in the middle of you'll see it growing in cracks in the concrete. It can grow in very rocky, dry soils. There's a ton of it growing. I'm thinking of a place in the city right by the railroad tracks. So it's hardy. It has perseverance. I feel like that is why also the feeling of responsibility. Fennel shows up. And it's really amazing because its leaves are delicate and soft and tender. It's in the carrot family, and its flowers are very soft, but it is a powerhouse. And so if you need to bring more energy in of self-confidence, of courage, bring in fennel. Fennel is a personality. When you smell fennel, there's no like, oh, was that rosemary that walked in the room, or was that magnolia, or what was that? Fennel walks in the room and it's like, oh, fennel's here. Like we all know it's fennel, right? You might think it's licorice if you didn't know the name fennel. And so if you need that energy in your life, if you need to be like, ooh, I need to come home to who I am, I need to differentiate between other personalities. I've been comparing myself. Maybe I'm on Instagram and I'm looking at what everyone else is doing, and I'm feeling small because I don't feel as good as other people. This is common when we're looking at social media or when we're comparing ourselves. I hear it all the time from artists or from others, like, oh, but they're doing so much more than me, right? So if we need to come back to, what am I doing? What am I here for? What is my purpose? Use fennel. You can diffuse it. You can smell it. It reignites the passion for life. Here in the Pacific Northwest, it's been gray. It's been cold. We've been coming out of winter. So I think fennel is a great energy to bring in right now. Fennel encourages a connection with the body. So you can use this where there's been weakness or separation. If there has been a hard relationship with nourishment or food, either you deprive yourself of it or you overindulge when you're stressed out. If you're a person who gets stressed out and eats 3 pints of ice cream to help self-soothe, bring Fennel in to help balance that energy out. Fennel also encourages us to listen to subtle messages from the body. And so again, that comes back to the loss of connection with the body, right? Like if you get busy and you override your body saying, I'm hungry, your body, well, finally, you'll just not even hear that anymore. Or if you're in chronic pain and you're like, I'm going to push through, I'm going to disassociate from my body and check out so I can keep going. This can help us in times of fight or flight and emergency situations, but we don't want to do that long term, right? So if we need to reconnect with our body, bring in Fennel. It can also help if there's been drug abuse or any kind of I want to check out and disassociate from my body. Think of Fennel coming in. Fennel is supportive for regaining one's appetite for nourishment, for food, and life itself. Fennel supports feelings of safety and belonging. And I think about that with the helping with mother's milk. And I think of that feeling, if all is well with mama and baby, where that's the ultimate safety feeling, right? Like a baby gets fussy and upset. It nurses, it's skin on skin, it's next to mama, it's smelling mama, and it's getting comforted. And I feel like Fennel can bring in that energy. So you can always grab your Clary Calm, your Digestion, your bottle of Fennel, if you need any of this, this energy into your life.
Hey, Ariana, I have a question for you. I'm just curious how you see the oil of responsibility. Well, how does responsibility play into Fennel's picture?
Yeah, and I said this before, but if I just want to give credit again, that's coming from the Emotions book, which they give a little tagline that we use for our calls for all of the oils. And how I see that is I see it as Fennel is a plant. So I can grow and be soft with my leaves and my flowers, fluttery, feminine, up in the world. But my bulb and my roots can grow deep into the concrete. I can be rooted, I can be grounded, and I'm here. And I feel that when we're responsible, we show up, right? Responsibility is showing up to life. It's saying, it's giving your word. It's saying, hey, I will be here tomorrow at 10 a.m. and you show up and you're there. I gave my word I was going to do that. I'm showing up and I'm doing that, right? And Fennel, I feel, has that same energy. When Fennel shows up, you smell it, you know it, you taste it, you feel it. And so I think of that with its perseverance on how it grows, I think is how I think of Fennel. I also think of that responsibility if we're properly assimilating life, if we're nourished. Like you think of someone who hasn't ate, right? And they're like all over the place and they might be having a meltdown and they're scattered and they're spaced out. But when we're nourished, when we've had a nice meal, when we've woke up on time, when we're responsible, we're present, and we can show up and embody an energy. And so Fennel's property of I help the body get nourished, I help digestion, I help, I just think of it as like a assimilation of life and coming into self. Also, to be responsible, you have to know who you are. You have to have some autonomy, right? Like, hey, this person might want to go do this thing, but I said I'd do this thing, and so I'm showing up. So that's how I think of it, and I would love anybody else's, we can have a conversation about this if anyone else has thoughts on Fennel and responsibility.
Yeah, I think that when I get into my part, that'll make more sense about the responsibility. I think, is it my turn next?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll just jump to you. Great segue.
Yeah, great segue. Great question, Dr. Rose. And it's let me finish this thought before I get into my part. But it's to have energetic hygiene and energetic boundaries is responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about Fennel kind of like what you were describing, it has that beautiful stalk, right? Where your integrous within yourself and your energetic self, and you can be soft. But so you're staying within the boundaries of yourself. And that's high level responsibility. I just put a drop of Fennel in my coffee. The biggest phrase that I got, what do you have here? The tiny seed knew that in order to grow, it needed to be dropped in dirt, covered in darkness, struggled to reach the light. Yeah, because for me anyway, life is about coming back to me, coming back to me, coming back to me. And maybe it's because I'm an empath that's my journey. Probably a lot of you too, is like, where do I begin and end? What am I doing with myself? What is my truth? All of that makes sense based on this.
And if I can just jump in for
Yeah.
Mica, I put this quote, and we can talk a little more about this too. We talked about fennel as the whole plant, but I did want to speak to also, we're using the seed, fennel seed oil. And that's why I included this quote, because seed is all potential, right? It's that nurture. It's to me, when I think of cardamom, I think of fennel, I think of seeds. They feel very safe to me. They feel like home. So I just wanted to also speak to why that quote was in there, because yes, we're using the fennel seeds.
Love that. The seed, the potential. It's perfect. Yeah. So, and it's almost like, okay, so what I got from Fennel is, this is Fennel talking. I help you to have the courage and strength to see yourself as enough. Isn't that perfect?
Love that.
So
can we give that to all teenagers, please?
Yes, or all of us. And you touched upon, I can help you digest or throw off or not take in false information that's promoted on social media, commercials, magazines, that you need something more to be good enough. You talked about that, Ariana.
I love that. It's the sweetness of self, right? Like fennel's so sweet.
Sweetness of self. That's a good one. We need to keep that quote. Sweetness of self. I can dissolve all the layers of energetic congestion that clouds you from seeing the beauty within yourself. Aren't these all great one-liners?
Yes.
Well, I want to get back to, I can help you digest and throw off or not take in false information that's promoted on social media as it pertains to you not being enough. That's in on Dr. Rose's slide about anti-parasitic. That's energetic parasitism, that you can use Fennel to clear your fields, or spritz or diffuse, so that you constantly are coming back to you and you're not, we're inundated with different information, but it doesn't have to seep into the point where then we don't feel good enough about ourselves and what we have. I want to show you a clearing that you can do with Fennel. I can help you see the beauty of who you are. After being on the computer for a period of time, use me in a spritz or diffuse me. If you're using it in a spritz bottle, 40 drops of Fennel, and I'm going to make it up for myself on my desk. In a 2-ounce bottle, fill the rest with purified water or distilled water. Doesn't that seem lovely? Just have it right there. Oh, you know how when you're on the computer too much and you're just like, oh, I just feel, or you're in a crowded place and you get out of the crowded place, and that's when a good time to diffuse or have Fennel on hand. Yeah, if you're in a crowd, use me to clear the energetic congestion. Use me for balancing, or when you feel stagnant or brain fog. Yeah, because that's all the same. If you feel all of a sudden overwhelmed, flooded, confusion, and it just pops up and you're like, oh, do I need to eat? Am I having a blood sugar crash? Well, I would put a drop of Fennel on your tongue and then spritz, diffuse, or do this. So this is super easy. You can do it in the car. You can do it at your desk. Take a couple drops of the Fennel. I'm putting a couple drops of Fennel on the palms of my hands and rub the palms of the hands together. We do this, as some of you are in my Qigong class, which you're all welcome to. It's donation only. We can put up we'll put it up on the Facebook page. Breathe it in 3 times. Mm. Mm. And then you just, can you see, I'm just bringing my arms up over my head and then down, up over my head and then down. Can you feel that, Ari, or whoever is doing it with me?
Feels good. I highly recommend it.
Yes, you can really feel clarity, clearing, clear-headedness. Super easy little tools to have if you're empathic. Oh, I like that, Ariana. She just wafted her hand over her head. I can clear negative false impressions that you have of yourself. So it's all the same kind of theme or thread. If all of a sudden I had somebody text me, a patient said, I was cooking, and all of a sudden it just popped into my head of negative thoughts about myself. Where did that come from? I'm like, it could have been from, whatever's on TV, or, what's in the background? What is your mom listening to in the other room? Could be anything. That's where you just have your Fennel and go, stop, breathe, take your Fennel, spritz around, carry on. Let's see. I did want to go back to something that Dr. Rose mentioned about skin. Did you say something about, skin conditions? I think this is a good alternative. A lot of people, when they think about skin, they go right to tea tree. Tea tree is wonderful. It's an anti-fungal, but it's also stronger. It's strong. And Fennel is as strong, but it has a softness to it, like you mentioned, Ariana. And that might be a really good one to go to first before tea tree. Those are my thoughts. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Anyone about, what do you think about that? I have a lot of people that go to tea tree right off the bat. And I'm going to go to Fennel.
Yeah, I was thinking too, like for something like athlete's foot or like a fungal, when you're putting something on your feet. And I also find it's really nice to rotate. Like if we're always using the same oil, our body likes to mix it up sometimes. I love Arbor Vitae too. So, but they're all really different. Like Arbor Vitae has more of a bite, where I agree, Fennel's a bit softer. I also love, like, if we rub this on our feet and we're using it for fungal, how wonderful to then support the digestive system as well, right? So that's a different energy feeling that we're bringing in than if we were rubbing tea tree on our feet. That feels more astringent of a feeling.
Yeah. And one more thing about digestion, it helps you to digest being in life and not taking on all the things outside of yourself. So there's all this stuff going on, activities and different information about what you need and how you can not close off, but just use fennel to help digest that and stay close to you and energetically aligned with your truth. I'm going to repeat this. I help you to have the courage and strength to see yourself as enough. Yeah. That's what I have. Isn't that beautiful?
I love it.
Yeah.
If anybody does affirmations, it would be a beautiful thing to put on a note on your mirror in the morning.
I'm going to do it.
I love it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mica. Anything
Yeah.
else? Any other stuff?
No, we just have Will here if you don't see him.
Yeah.
He's here.
Let's move to Will and here. I know that
Hello.
I know the herbal energy from a Western herbal perspective and the traditional Chinese medicine of
Hi,
fennel
sweetie.
are different. So Will can talk about that. Hi, Will.
Hello, everyone. Again, it's always surprising, but not really, in terms of how intercorrelated we talk about these herbs and a lot of the sort of threads that come up. In terms of Chinese, the term fennel is characterized by xiao, hui, xiang. So xiao is little. Hui is fennel, and xiang is very sweet smelling, very fragrant, often like a incense kind of sweetness. But if you look at the actual character for hui, the actual kind of middle component of the calligraphy, I know you can't see this necessarily, but I'll describe it. Basically, on top, there's two crosses, which usually represent a notion of an herb. And then, sorry. And then,
I changed it. Sorry to interrupt you, Will, so that hopefully people can see it if they're with us live.
sure. And then the bottom part is almost like a box within a box. So a square inside a square. So that's very telling. Meaning you think of what is square in Chinese culture, it often represents the earth. So it is earth within earth. And you think of the power of double earth is like this notion of knowing you're oriented, right? When you're standing on the earth, you know what is below, you know what is above. So you're oriented. When you're in space, you're sort of disoriented, or in the water and you get turned upside down, you don't know which way is up. So the quality again of fennel as being sort of this earth within earth is again this quality of trustworthiness. We all talked about this sort of responsibility, or in Hawaiian, it's the kuleana, right? The responsibility to know your sort of not duty, but your notion of care for the world and how to come out to be the best person that you can. So fennel, coming back to fennel, in Chinese medicine is very sweet. It is actually 13 times stronger in terms of sweetness than sugar. And it's very pungent. So again, you look at these sort of flavors, sweet and pungent. Sweet obviously is a flavor of the earth, pungent more of the lung. So very dispersing, but very tonifying. And in that way can transform phlegm. It can look at actually moving the qi of the lung and the spleen to help transform. Again, the notion of qi in Chinese is that you have to transform something raw, like food or air, into something refined, like qi. So then the body can utilize it to build more blood or more muscles or more shen, spirit. So the quality, again, is really telltale to transform the body, the matter of the body, into something, again, higher, more refined, into spirit. The other action is it's very warming. So very warming to the interior, not the surface layer of the skin, such as like cinnamon twig. It's more of like this more deeper, cold lying issue that is at hand. And when that happens, the body is usually very yang deficient or qi deficient, so that this sort of energy of Fennel will retap the body's fire internally to bring about this sort of balancing back into place of warmth. It affects the kidneys, the liver, the spleen and stomach, and the lungs. So we use this herb in the past couple hundred years anyways, so it's not, again, necessarily a old herb or formulation in an herb in a formula, but one of the more sort of used formulas that we put Fennel in is actually more geared towards hydroseals or varicoceles for men, in terms of the sort of what we call phlegm accumulation that causes pain in the testicles for men. So we use that as an emperor herb for Fennel. Again, we talked about in this talk that Fennel really is not necessarily an emperor or a major concentration in any kind of formula. But I just want to make note that in some uses, it can be used for sort of a main ingredient at higher doses, but specifically for men's issues related to testicular pain. It's also used for skin health, bone health, helping with any kind of digestive issue. Again, you look at the symbol for Fennel, again, that square within a square, it's basically also a mouth, right? So that anything from the digestive tract, starting at the mouth level, all the way down through the gullet and into the stomach and large intestines and colon, and out is what Fennel really accomplishes well to reharmonize. Any type of bloating, any lack of appetite, dysmenorrhea, abdominal pain, we use, because oftentimes if it's the cause is from internal cold, like again, any kind of internal cold will cause this abdominal contracture. You think again of cold being contracting in nature, the result will be pain. So we look to resolve this internal cold by using Fennel. Let's see here. One more thing is that Fennel, I feel, has, again, this quality of boundaries that we have talked about, and the responsibility, as Dr. Mica talked about, with energetic responsibility, cleaning off or removing yourself of this sort of layer of caked in layer of stuff that we can accumulate. And so Fennel, by being this sort of quality of earth, can reaffirm, again, especially in this time, as we talked about in the last talk, with this year of this wood dragon, to really firm up the earth also by supporting that dragon energy, being earth dominant. Fennel is another, again, earth herb to help support us in this year of dragon, to again work on our digestive system, our ability to convert or transform any kind of obstruction, whether that be related to dampness, into cold and phlegm, into something to clean it up, basically.
Thank you so much, Will. I was having this dream of perhaps on our next call, we could make a dragon blend for this year. And
That's
if you
yeah.
if you want to take me up on that, I would love it.
Sure.
I
That
would
sounds
love
exciting.
to. So you have to tune in next month for our dragon blends. Let me pull back up our presentation.
Can I ask you a question, Will?
Sure.
When you were talking about the quality of fennel being really great for resolving that internal cold, would you recommend internal use for that primarily, or?
Yeah, definitely as in a tea.
Mhm.
If you're really sort of, hypothermic to like more of a constitution where you've taken in a lot of cold qualities, whether that be from food to exposure externally to cold, to come into a great tea. And it looks like there's a sweet tea that we have here on the slide.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, I think combining it with other warming things can be helpful, like cinnamon bark, to balancing if you're in not sort of that high cold nature, is to maybe balance it with, as you had mentioned, with some peppermint to allow for a more balanced tea.
I have a question. So if you are like to have that deep cold, and you know how we just did a couple A to Z's ago in ginger,
Ginger.
would you do, what would be the tea blend? Would it be fennel, 1 drop of fennel, 1 drop of ginger, maybe 1 to 1?
Yeah, that
Mhm.
would be a great way to start. Again, with any sort of essential oils, I always like to recommend you start off, if you haven't used these types of blends before, in a slower manner so that your body can get adjusted. But yeah, 1 drop of ginger, 1 drop of fennel. I, for myself, love cardamom. They're in the sort of similar action of being earth, elemental earth herbs. And then balancing again, if you're more prone to getting too much heat, to have a little bit of a cooling herb like peppermint. I would see that as a good thing.
And then our beautiful digest zen, we used to have that at our tea bar, our hot bar. We need to get more over there, but so you could just do, that's a beautiful balance. I remember analyzing digest zen years ago, and how it was the Ayurvedic blend that when you were at restaurants, Indian restaurants, and then you'd leave. They probably don't do it anymore. It's post-COVID, where they'd have that beautiful bowl, silver bowl, and they'd have a blend of the herbs for digestion. You're supposed to take a little bit, a spoonful, and then eat it on your way out. It was basically this digestion blend.
Yes, it would be terrific.
I love it. I thought of that bowl of fennel seeds too, Mica, when I was making this presentation. Will already spoke to this. The number I got was, it reiterates that fennel is, I think on my site it says 13 times more. Where is it? But basically the premise I'm trying to say is that, yeah, it's a monoterpene that is 13 times sweeter than the table sugar. So I don't have exact recipe on the slide that I made, but the recommendation was add 1 drop of fennel to water, tea, or a green juice for sweet, delicious flavor when sugar cravings hit. So I was thinking, I put sweet tea up here. And if you made, some people make sweet tea with green tea, some people traditionally it's black tea, but instead of putting sugar in, you could just add the fennel in the summertime. Sweet tea is usually served cold. would be a lovely combination. Or if you want to do it hot, we just gave you a great tea blend as well. But really nice. I know that I used to use, before I worked with essential oils, I used to use licorice root and fennel and herbal tea blends to bring in that nice flavor and the sweetness. And then I have some diffuser blends to share with you. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm not going to read them all, but here are some ideas. If you want to bring in that energy of grounded autonomy, responsibility, showing up to life, having good boundaries. 4 drops of fennel, 3 drops of lime, 2 drops of patchouli. Doesn't that sound grounding and yummy? That is like good, feels like good dragon energy, like to stick to the earth with that patchouli in there and that lime to raise it up a little bit. 3 drops of fennel, 3 drops of clary sage, 2 drops of ginger. Another one is 2 drops of fennel, 2 drops of cinnamon, and 2 drops of clove. The 4th one, 3 drops of fennel, 2 drops of basil, 2 drops of lime. And the 5th one I'll read is 2 drops of fennel, 3 drops of lemon, and 2 drops of cedarwood. So I love this idea. A lot of these combinations are mixing a nice tree oil with a citrus to brighten it, and then bringing in the fennel. Well, one more, sweet musk, 3 drops fennel, 3 drops lime. Oh, it's the same. It's the same blend over here. I have 2 different, if you're not looking at the slide, I have 2 different fennel diffuser blend combos, and there are some repeats. And then we talked about this already, but fennel is in our Clary Calm, it's in our Digestion. With the Digestion oil, we could add that to a tea, which would be lovely, or rub it on the belly. I have a picture here. Digestion also comes in a soft gel. So if you want to get that nice digestive support in a soft gel, that's available. And I think that wraps it up for everything that we have to share about fennel. I'm going to hand the mic back over to my sister, and maybe she could talk about our March promos and any things to wrap up our call.
Hello, everybody. As usual, thank you for such a dynamic and insightful dive into fennel. I always love how much I continue to learn about all of these amazing essential oils. Yes, we have quite the lineup in March of promos. They are on the screen for you to see. We have 10% off the Abode Concentrated Cleaner, the 4-pack, which I've been loving the new Abode products. You have a few days to get a free bottle of lemon when you place your 125 points loyalty reward order, which is absolutely the best way to get your essential oils. You always get a free oil of the month. And then there's been a lot of excitement about this bubble diffuser. If you do not yet have it, I highly recommend grabbing it. These tend to sell out. They are motion detected. So you just put your bottle of oil on it, and when you walk by it, it will disperse some essential oil. So it's great for the bathroom. It's great for travel. It's really small, and it's a really lovely diffuser. So next week, please circle back and join us. We have Erin Fugate, doTERRA Blue Diamond, who will be talking to us about networking strategies, how to best connect with your community, make new friends, and use that to help support and build your doTERRA business. So we always look forward to having Erin on the call. She's filled with so much wisdom and experience, and actually runs a networking group down in Ashland that she started because there was not one to go to, so she started it. So I think she'll also talk about how she got that going. Anything else that anybody else wants to add before we wrap it up? Okay, and I do want to add that if you are not on our newsletter, to please go to our website at hellovisionary.life, and we have both the newsletter and we have text reminders. And one note about our call, we have the same link every week. So occasionally, if that text reminder doesn't get sent on time, take that link and just put it on your calendar and repeat it every week. So you can just go in and click on that and you don't have to panic if, it's 9:55 and you can't find the link. So that's a wrap, everybody. Hope you have a great day, and we'll look forward to connecting with you next week. Bye-bye.